The following is a sponsored program paid for by First Alliance Credit Union. Welcome to Good Money Moves, featuring Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union and Andy Brownell. Here's Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk, 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Good Money Moves. I'm Andy Brownell with Jenna Taubel, AVP of Marketing with First Alliance Credit Union. Hi, Jenna.
Hey, Andy.
All right, last week we navigated through teaching kids budgeting basics.
Yes.
Of course, setting them up for financial success down the road. What topic will we explore this week for Good Money Moves?
Yeah, so I am really excited to dive into today's topic. It's one of my favorite things, pets. And I know we've talked about this on previous episodes, but pets, they bring so much joy to our lives, but they also bring some really big price tags, some unexpected expenses, especially as they start to get older in a lot of cases. So it's really important to be mindful of this and know how you can plan ahead and prepare your budget for these types of expenses.
They can even be expensive when they're younger.
Yes, yeah, they can
Both
be
of my
expensive at
kids-
any point in time.
Both of my kids have pets that have racked up some pretty good veterinarian bills.
Oh, yeah.
And they're relatively, well, they are young dogs, so yeah.
Yeah.
Not cheap, let's put it that way.
No, not
Okay.
at all.
Let's talk about the numbers. What kind of expenses are we looking at when we're talking about pet care?
Yeah, so let's talk routine expenses first, because you're going to have those no matter what kind of animal you have. Dog, cat, reptile, you have routine expenses, right? You think about pet food, for example. Specifically for dogs, that can cost anywhere between like $300 to $1,000 a year or more, depending on your pet's size and if they have any special dietary needs. You know, I think for larger dog breeds, you could easily be looking at a closer to like the $1,000 mark,
Oh, sure.
especially if you opt for a higher quality dog food or a specialty type of food. You know, of course, on that lower end, the smaller breeds and smaller pets with maybe simpler diets are going to probably fall closer to that $300 annual cost.
I imagine
Which-
if you have a snake or something like that, it's not cheap to buy those little tiny rats or mice.
No, I suppose not. I guess I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, buying another pet to feed your pet would be very expensive. Yes. But then you think about, especially for dogs, there's the grooming costs. And of course, depending on your pet's breed and the type of coat that they have, those costs can vary pretty significantly. You know, for example, if you've got a long hair dog that requires regular trimming and grooming sessions, you think like a poodle or something, you know, you might be paying anywhere from like $50 to $100 per session. And if you have to do that on the same schedule you would for a human, right? That's every, 8 weeks or so, keep them trimmed up and looking good. That's going to add up over the year, right? And then also keep in mind that, you know, some breeds just require more frequent grooming, which just increase that annual cost. And, you know, you got to keep their nails trimmed and, you know, all that stuff. So there's just a lot of maintenance that goes into keeping your pet healthy. Then we talk about keeping your pet healthy, we naturally talk about vet visits, right? And usually costs for those, even for like a planned visit, just for their annual checkup, you're looking at, you know, anywhere from $100 to $300 just for the visit, depending on what type of animal you have and what their needs are. And those, you know, basic checkup, vaccination, routine tests, those type of things. However, then you want to talk about keeping your pet's teeth clean. Those dental cleanings or other specialized types of care, those costs get even higher, usually because there's some kind of anesthesia involved. That's really where that cost comes into play. And
Yeah,
so
imagine.
keeping your dog's teeth clean is anywhere from $300 to like $700 or more, depending again on the vet you're working with and the complexity of their needs. So,
Yeah,
and
you
these
got to
are all
protect the
just,
vet. If the vet's
just-
sticking a toothbrush in your dog's mouth, you probably
Yeah.
want them under.
yes, yeah, I don't think there's any vets who do dental without anesthesia. So those are just basic maintenance things that you have to do for your pets to keep them healthy. And it's also then, cost of medications if your pet isn't so healthy, especially as they age, or if they've just have, some kind of chronic condition, think arthritis, or, pets can get diabetes, and, they can get all kinds of problems. Trust me, I've been through it with every animal I've owned. They've all had a problem of some kind. But you could be spending just on like some medications anywhere from like $50 to like $100 or more a month. And then over the year, you just think about it adds up, to another $600 to $1,200 just for medication for your pet. Some pets need specialized treatments like physical therapy, or some people, I know some people have had their pets go through things like chiropractic care, acupuncture, and those costs can be pretty pricey as well. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, going back just a few weeks,
Yeah.
boat ownership might be less expensive.
They might be comparable, but I think, I guess depending on who you are, you might get more enjoyment out of one or the other if you had to choose between the two. But I mean, these are all just like routine type of costs that you might anticipate having for your pet ownership. So let's not forget about those emergency situations that crop up, right? So for example, an emergency surgery, depending on what it's for, $2,000 to $5,000, maybe more, again, depending on what the complexity of that procedure is, and, where your vet is located and all of that stuff. So pets are expensive. I mean, I think about my current 2 dogs that I have. Both of them have had to have major surgeries. One tore out both ligaments in his knees, and they had to have surgery to fix those and put some metal plates in his knees. And he was quite young when that happened, and that was $3,000 a piece. So and then my other one has had multiple surgeries for some ongoing health issues that she's unfortunately had with her digestive tract. It's been a thing. So, and of course, you love your pets. You're going to do whatever you have to keep them alive and healthy. It is what it is. So it adds up fast, and you have to be prepared for it.
With my children's dogs, I know one had, because of the breed, some sort of eye issue that required, I think it was a $5,000 operation.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other one, as you mentioned, digestive tract issues.
Mm-hmm.
And, the blood tests, the tests on the, byproduct of digestion, I guess, to be a polite way of saying it.
Yeah.
And then ultimately some sort of imaging scans, I'm sorry. It added up to be well into the thousands.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's nuts.
Yeah, yes, when you think about it. All right. Obviously, these numbers add up very, very, very quickly. So what do you do if you don't have enough saved up for an emergency like this?
Yeah. So if you haven't prepared your budget to handle an emergency with your pet, this is where having pet insurance in place comes into play and can really literally be a lifesaver both for your pet and for your budget. There's all kinds of different types of pet insurance, but typically they cover a percentage of your pet's medical costs, and then depending on the plan, it can include things like surgeries, treatments for chronic conditions, even some medications. So, for example, monthly premiums for pet insurance typically are actually pretty affordable when you compare it to like people medical insurance. The premiums can range from like $25 to about $50, maybe a little bit more if you have a really big dog, per month, and then around like $15 to $30, for cats. But that peace of mind you get with that is so priceless. And because the cost of pet insurance can, kind of be based on several factors, including your pet's breed and age and kind of where they're located. And that range might look a little bit different for you. And it also kind of depends on the insurance company that you choose to go with. But when I say it can really be a lifesaver and bring you some peace of mind, I'm speaking from experience. As you heard just moments ago, my horror stories with my 2 dogs I have currently, I thankfully had pet insurance with them, and the majority of those costs were covered. The German Shepherd that I had prior to that had some significant surgery that had to happen, and then ended up with cancer shortly after that. And we did not have pet insurance to cover those costs. So I am still paying down the loan.
Oh my gosh.
On that because I wanted to save my dog's life. So these have serious long-term financial implications if you are not properly prepared for the situation and how you're going to financially handle it. So, yeah, pet insurance is a key component of your budget when you have a pet.
Well, Jenna, you certainly have laid out the reason for it very well.
Yeah.
The costs are higher than even I imagined when you think, put it all together. And well, we'll talk some more about pet insurance when we return. It's Good Money Moves here on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. We're talking Good Money Moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
It's Good Money Moves. This week's topic is the unbelievably high cost of pet ownership. When you look at the potential veterinary bills that you face, well, even you mentioned earlier, Jenna, just the routine bills that you face.
Yeah.
Just to go get the vaccinations you have to have every year, the routine checkups and the grooming costs and the nails. Gosh, that costs a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. But what we're also talking about is those, I guess, catastrophic issues that you might face. Mm-hmm. If your dog suffers some sort of injury, which is pretty common, or serious illness. And you mentioned pet insurance as an option. I guess that leads to my question for you. Is it for everyone, pet insurance?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it really does depend on your pet and your financial situation. If you are someone who would do anything to save your pet in an emergency, such as myself, pet insurance is definitely worth the cost and is worth looking into. 1 in 3 pets will require unexpected medical treatment every year. And without insurance, you might have to make a really heartbreaking decision of whether or not you can afford to keep your pet alive. And nobody wants to be in that position. It's a really difficult decision to be in. And I mentioned right before the break that I had to make that decision for myself, and I'm still paying on that loan that I took out to have an emergency surgery done for a pet. So it can be a huge financial burden if you don't have it in place and you're forced into a situation where you have to make that difficult decision. The one thing to keep in mind with pet insurance is that it typically does not cover routine care like vaccinations and wellness exams. And that's why it's actually really important to have, money in something like a pet savings account to cover those regular expenses that you can plan for. That being said, some insurance plans do offer add-ons for like wellness care, but that they do significantly increase your monthly premium. So that's where I say if your financial situation is decent and you feel like you can afford to pay the additional premiums, there is options for that out there.
Well, those situations, the insurance company is essentially going to charge you what it costs to provide the care. They're not going to lose money on the deal.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. You'd have to weigh the cost and benefits of the additional cost for that add-on. But like what wellness coverage might include is things like routine exams, vaccinations, preventative treatments like flea and tick. And again, the add-ons can be really helpful. but they can, again, also raise your monthly premium an extra, $20 or more a month, again, depending on your plan and the type of animal that you have. So again, just weigh the costs and benefits to decide if it's really worth it in your specific situation. But regardless of whether or not you opt in for that wellness care in pet insurance, I am a strong proponent for having pet insurance for your pets, so you don't have to make those tough decisions if it comes down to it.
Okay, let's get to the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
How does it work? How does having an insurance policy for your pet work?
Yeah, pet insurance is really, really similar to human health insurance in a lot of ways, but it's actually less complicated, thankfully. So you do pay a monthly premium, and then you have a deductible that you need to meet before insurance starts to cover the costs. And that deductible can range anywhere from $100 to like $1,000 annually, again, depending on your plan and what your budget looks like, how much you feel like you could afford up front. All of that stuff can come into play. But once you've met that deductible for the year, the insurance company then reimburses you for that percentage of your vet bill. So, and that percentage typically ranges between like 70 and 90%, depending on your plan. So for example, if you have an 80% reimbursement rate and your pet surgery cost $1,000, you'll pay that $1,000 up front, but then you'll submit a claim once you've paid for that to your pet insurance company, and you'll get back $800 from your insurance company.
So that answers
right?
my question. It's not like human insurance where you have in network and out of network. It's
Correct.
You're just dealing with the insurance company.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and when you set up your initial plan with the pet insurance company of your choice, they want to know what vet you use. They want to know, they'll ask you a million questions about your animal, obviously. And then typically what they do and don't cover in any plan is very straightforward and very clear. So you're not having to fight with them about what is and isn't covered, or did they code something correctly like you would with human pet insurance. So there is, in some cases, plans do have annual or lifetime like coverage caps, though, which means there's a limit to how much the insurance is going to pay out in a given year or in a lifetime for your pet. So, for example, the plan might cover up to $10,000 per year or have like a lifetime cap of $50,000. So those are some important things to just be aware of when you're vetting plans for your pet, and especially if you anticipate that they may have ongoing treatment for any kind of ailment. Especially, sure. I think of, German Shepherds are known for hip dysplasia. If you think that that's possible for your pet, you may want to pay a close attention to that.
Okay. We're talking pet insurance today, protecting yourself against the, extremely high costs of medical care for pets, which for some might be a surprise. And we'll continue that discussion with Jenna Taubel at First Alliance Credit Union after this quick break on News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM. We're talking good money moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome back, everyone. The topic today on Good Money Moves, I guess, is pet insurance. Being prepared financially for medical issues with your pet, dog, cat, whatever it may be. And I guess, Jenna, what should I be looking at if I'm out there shopping for one of these insurance plans?
Yeah, great question. So when you're thinking about a pet insurance plan, there's a couple pieces of terminology that you need to look at and consider. So number one being deductibles. As I mentioned earlier, deductibles can vary pretty widely. And a higher deductible usually means a lower monthly premium, but it also means you'll pay more out of pocket before insurance kicks in. So consider how much you're comfortable paying up front when you're deciding on what deductible you're comfortable with. The other term to think about and look into is reimbursement rates. This is the percentage of your vet bill that the insurance company will reimburse after you've met your deductible. So a higher reimbursement rate typically does come with higher premiums because that means the insurance company is giving you back more money. So if you have a slightly lower reimbursement rate, you might have a lower premium, but they're going to return to you less dollars on that vet bill. So coverage caps is another one. Some plans have that annual or lifetime coverage limits, like I mentioned previously. And if your pet requires expensive treatments or long-term needs ongoing medical treatment, you'll want to make sure that the plan you choose has a high enough cap to cover those costs, or you're going to be on the hook for additional dollars. Exclusions is another key thing here. So most insurance plans don't cover pre-existing conditions. So it's really important that you get pet insurance while your pet is still young and healthy and has not had any significant health problems. Some plans may also exclude certain conditions that can be really common to specific breeds. So make sure that you read the fine print, and they typically also don't cover like if you didn't use flea and tick prevention and your dog ended up with some kind of tick-borne illness, they may not cover that because that is considered a preventative disease. So those are some things to be mindful of. And then I mentioned earlier, adding that additional coverage options and what the costs of those are for that routine care, dental care, or like alternative therapies that aren't covered under the core plan. So again, just weighing some cost and benefit to those.
Okay. Earlier you mentioned pet savings accounts.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to start one of these to save up money for these situations?
Yeah, so first you're going to want to calculate what you expect your pet's annual expenses to be, both with routine care and then adding a little bit of buffer for potential emergency costs. So for example, if your pet's annual expenses are around $1,200 and you aim to save at least $100 a month, right? That covers those routine care costs. But you also then want to build that cushion in for emergencies. And for emergencies, a really good rule of thumb is to save at least $2,000, but up to $5,000 if you don't have that pet insurance already can be a really good goal. It seems huge, but after what we just talked about earlier in the show, I hope you will believe me when I say up to $5,000. Again, it can really make all the difference when an unexpected surgery or treatment comes up for your pet. And you can build this emergency fund over time, adding just a little bit each month until you reach your goal, just like you would for any other type of savings goal that you have. And it can be really helpful to set up automatic transfers into some kind of savings account for your pet to make savings easier. This way, you don't have to think about it each month. It'll just happen automatically. And additionally, you can consider setting up separate funds with your pet savings account for, different types of expenses, even, if you want to help keep yourself organized. So for example, you could allocate a portion of that savings to routine care and another portion to emergencies. And this just really helps ensure you're prepared both for the expected and unexpected costs of pet ownership.
Okay, we spent a lot of time talking about the really expensive things that could be associated. And you just mentioned the routine things. Mm-hmm. Should I have two pet savings accounts?
Yeah, so it depends on how you like to manage your money and what makes you feel like you understand and have control over your budget. So a pet savings account it's good to have a separate account set aside for your pet savings. It's dedicated to saving for your pet's expenses, whether that's routine or unexpected, however you want to slice and dice that and what makes sense to you. You could have two pet savings accounts, one that's for the routine care and one for the unexpected. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way. And then again, making sure that you're including the cost of food, grooming, those really regular vet visits, and then, money aside for those emergency medical bills that could pop up at any time.
Okay. So couldn't I just incorporate this into my overall emergency savings?
You could. There's nothing necessarily wrong with doing it that way. It's kind of like what works best for you. But what's really nice about having that dedicated account is it helps ensure really that you're financially prepared for the situation that your pet might face. And then you're not having to necessarily spend your normal emergency funds, which are intended, if you lose your job or if you need your car breaks down and, those types of things. It can be really helpful to not just use that regular savings account for that, but by setting up that separate account for your pet, you're more likely to consistently save for it and not dip into those funds for other purposes.
Okay. And I know that in the past when we've talked about it, it's been quite a while since we talked about pet expenses, but
Yeah.
First Alliance Credit Union does something special, doesn't it, with the pet savings accounts?
Yeah. Yep. We do. We have a pet savings account, and it does tend to come with a little bit higher interest rates than our traditional savings. And if you open one and fund it, we do donate $10 to Paws and Claws when you open that account. So other pet savings accounts are out there, and some of them can even come with like discounts on like pet related services. But really the goal with the pet savings account is to make sure that you're financially prepared for any pet expenses, in expected or unexpected.
All right. Well, I'm completely unprepared. I actually do have a separate pet savings account, but the numbers you've quoted over the past 20 minutes have made me realize there is not anywhere near enough in that thing.
Yeah. Well, some is better than none. That's
okay. So obviously this is a good money move if you have a pet to prepare for what could happen financially if the pet gets sick or injured. Is there someplace else we could look at, Jenna? Find out more about pet savings accounts or any other topic related to good money moves?
absolutely. I always encourage our listeners to visit our website at firstalliancecu.com. There you can subscribe to our blog. We release new financial tips and advice regularly. You can listen to past episodes of this show at firstalliancecu.com/podcast or on krocnews.com. You can also subscribe to Good Money Moves on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, and Spotify. And as always, I encourage you to reach out to our team at First Alliance Credit Union. We are here to help you start making good money moves today.
That's First Alliance Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA and an equal housing lender. Thank you, Jenna.
You bet.
We'll chat again next week with more good money moves right here at News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.